I had 5 years and 247 logged interactions on the account. He had 8 months and 4. 3 of the 4 had never actually happened. The system knew before I did. My name is Diane. I am 38 years old. I sell infusion pumps and integrated medication delivery systems to large hospital networks in the Midwest. It is not a glamorous job. The product line is boring. The customers are committees. But the contracts are $5 and $10 million apiece, and they renew on long cycles. So when you land one, you keep your numbers up for years. Mount Sinai had been my account since the day I joined the company. The previous rep had let the relationship cool, and I spent the first 9 months of my tenure rebuilding it from scratch. I drove out to their Lake Forest campus on cold Tuesday mornings before staff meetings. I memorized the pharmacy director's grandchildren's names. I sat through 3 different bid cycles where we lost to a competitor on price. By year 4, we had won them back. By year 5, the renewal we were tracking was worth $4 million over 36 months. Brent became my manager 8 months before the renewal decision date. Before him, I had reported to a woman named Karen who left for a competitor and who used to tell me, in private, that I was the best closer she had ever managed. Brent had been at the company for 8 years. He played golf with Jerry, the regional VP. He had not personally closed a deal in 18 months. He referred to himself in meetings as a coach. In the months leading up to the Mount Sinai decision, Brent attended every one of my account reviews. He asked questions that suggested he had not read the briefing materials. He suggested strategies that the pharmacy director had specifically rejected 2 years prior. I corrected him politely in front of the team. I think that is where it started, though I could not have known at the time. The decision meeting at Mount Sinai was scheduled for a Tuesday in late October. The pharmacy director and her chief of staff would be there. Their VP of operations would be there. Their general counsel would be there. From our side, the company required 2 attendees at the closing presentation, one of whom had to be at the manager level or above. Brent and I were the 2. We had been preparing for the meeting for 6 weeks. On the Friday before, Brent emailed me at 4:47 in the afternoon. He said he had a family obligation Tuesday and would need to step out of the closing. He said he had complete confidence in me and that I had earned the right to take the lead. He copied no one on the email. I drove to Lake Forest alone on Tuesday morning. I presented for 40 minutes. I answered every question. At the point in the conversation where the pharmacy director turned to her VP of operations and asked whether they should proceed, the VP turned to me and said, with apology in his voice, that their policy required a counterpart at director level or above to be present to authorize. He could not authorize the renewal across the table from a sales rep. The contract would have to go back to committee. I drove home and sat in my driveway with the engine off for a long time. Then I went inside and started building a deck for the next bid cycle, because that is how you survive in this industry. You lose a meeting, you build the next deck. 6 weeks later, the contract went to our competitor. Our second quarter numbers had a $4 million hole in them. In January, Brent sent me a calendar invite labeled Annual Performance Review. I assumed it was procedural. He had been writing my reviews for 3 quarters, and they had been routine. I had been a top quartile performer every year I had been at the company. The invite was for a Tuesday afternoon in a small conference room on the 4th floor. When I arrived, Jerry, the regional VP, was already in the room. Brent was sitting next to him. There was a printed document on the table. Brent slid it toward me and said the company needed to talk to me about a performance improvement plan. The plan cited the Mount Sinai loss as the primary evidence. It described, in 3 paragraphs, a pattern of declining account engagement on my part throughout the quarter leading up to the decision. It said I had failed to maintain consistent communication with the pharmacy director. It said I had missed multiple internal preparation meetings, including a critical closing strategy session 2 weeks before the decision date. It said my manager had been forced to step in and absorb significant client-facing responsibility in the final weeks because I had become unreliable. I read it twice. I asked if I could take it home and respond in writing. Brent said the company would prefer to discuss it in real time. Jerry said it was not a punishment, just a process. I asked for the weekend. Brent looked at Jerry. Jerry looked at his watch. They gave me until Monday. I drove home, and I did not cry until I got to my driveway. And then I cried for about 4 minutes, and then I stopped, because the thing I was going to need to do next required a clear head. I logged into our company's customer relationship management system. Every email I had ever sent through the company server was logged there. Every phone call I had ever made on the company phone system was logged there. Every calendar invite, every customer visit, every meeting note, every voicemail. The system did not log human intent. It logged human activity. And it logged the activity automatically, with timestamps, against the account it belonged to. I ran a 12-month report on the Mount Sinai account. Every team member who had touched the account in the past year. Every interaction. Every channel. The report came back with 263 logged interactions. 247 of them were mine. 16 were not. Of those 16, 12 belonged to the previous manager, Karen, from her last weeks before she left, and they all matched normal handoff activity from a year prior. The remaining 4 belonged to Brent. They were dated within the last 60 days. Each one was marked as a logged phone call. The notes on each one read like account work, confirming meeting times, following up on questions, debriefing internal stakeholders. The phone calls had no matching entries in the company phone system. Our company's phone records came from a separate provider that integrated with the CRM through a nightly sync. When a sales rep made a call from a company phone, the system automatically stamped it against the customer account in the CRM. The two systems agreed with each other for every one of my 247 interactions. They did not agree for 3 of Brent's 4. I sat at my kitchen table on Saturday afternoon and looked at the report for a long time. The thing I had been told about myself for the past 3 months was that I had become unreliable. The thing the system was telling me was that my manager had been logging phantom activity to make his contribution to the account look larger than it was. He had been doing it for 2 months. He had been doing it during the exact weeks I was supposedly going dark on the client. I did not send the report to HR. I did not send it to Brent. I did not write a memo about it. I exported the raw 12-month interaction log to a PDF. I attached it to an email addressed to Jerry, the regional VP, with one sentence in the body. I wrote, for context on the Mount Sinai account timeline, in case it is useful for the team review process. I copied no one. I BCC'd myself. I scheduled the email to send at 6:55 on Monday morning, before he arrived at the office for his usual 7:15 review prep. Then I went outside and walked around my block 4 times. Jerry asked Brent to come to his office at 10:30 on Monday morning. The performance improvement plan discussion that had been scheduled with me for the afternoon was canceled at 9:47 without explanation. By Tuesday, an internal email announced that Brent was being moved to a special projects role reporting directly to corporate, effective immediately. The note thanked him for his 8 years of contribution to the field organization. Brent stopped showing up to our weekly team meetings within 2 weeks. He sent his resignation in by email 7 weeks after that. He took a job at a smaller competitor. I never heard from him again. I kept my territory. I kept my number. The Mount Sinai pharmacy director called me personally 6 months later when they were renegotiating with our competitor, and we won the renewal back at $5.2 million over 48 months. It was the biggest deal of my career. Here is what the experience taught me. The system was already documenting both of our work. Not because I was clever. Not because I had set anything up. Because every modern company runs on data infrastructure that nobody talks about until the day they need it. Brent had 8 years of seniority, a golf relationship, and a performance improvement plan written in his favor. I had a database with 247 time-stamped entries that he could not refute without admitting how the other 4 had gotten there. The lesson is not that you need to hide things. The lesson is that you should not be afraid of what the systems already know. Because at some point in your career, you will need them to talk. And the only thing standing between you and the right outcome is whether you remember they were there the whole time.